conference, I wanted to put together a short presentation to educate all Medicare beneficiaries on what's going to happen in 2025 based on the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. So I think this is really important information. This year is going to be a really big annual enrollment period for the plans coming up in 2025. Let's jump into this presentation. Let me get a little preface here. This presentation is not meant to scare you. This presentation is meant to educate you in preparation for the annual enrollment period for 2025. Now, that annual enrollment period runs from October 15th through December 7th. That's the time when you can look at all the plans for next year and make any changes to your current coverage. And I do anticipate there is going to be quite a need to shift around and potentially review plans this year because there are some big changes that we're going to dive into based on that Inflation Reduction Act. But very, very important to work with a licensed agent that is certified, educated in all the complexities of these prescription drug plans coming up for next year. So let's talk about this Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. There's been a few things that have been coming and rolling out over the years, and there's a few more things to happen. In 2023, we saw the expanded coverage of the vaccinations under the Medicare Part D prescription drug plans. So basically any vaccination that was recommended by the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, those were deemed to be had to be covered by your Medicare Part D prescription drug plan. We also saw in 2023 the insulin savings program. So people that are on insulin, that monthly price or copay was capped at $35. So that was a great improvement for most people. This year, I'm filming this right now in 2024. Right now in 2024, what they've also done is in the catastrophic coverage phase of your prescription drug coverage, they came up with a 0% coinsurance for you as the Medicare beneficiary. So that was an improvement. In 2023, you were responsible for 5% of the cost of your prescriptions. This year in 2024, if you manage to get to the catastrophic coverage phase, which we're going to go through on the next slide, you pay zero out-of-pocket costs for those prescriptions. Now, the biggest change is coming next year in 2025. Right now, we have an annual maximum out of pocket, if you will, of $8,000 for a Medicare beneficiary that they're going to be responsible for their prescription drug plan or their prescription drug costs, rather. That is going to be lowered to $2,000. So it's going to go from $8,000 down to $2,000. Now, at first glance, that looks like a really good thing. They've done some studies. This reduction is going to benefit 4% of the Medicare population because about 4% of the Medicare population has prescription drug costs over $8,000. Most people have drug costs below that number. So I'm going to talk about what that means for the 4% and the 96% where they don't have those costs over $8,000. They're also going to be getting rid of the coverage gap, what everybody refers to as the donut hole. We'll dive into that on the next one. And then they're also going to be shifting some of the cost sharing about who pays for what in each of these drug stages. So I'm going to explain how this all really, at the end of the day, affects you as the Medicare beneficiary. So let's dive into those stages and sort of how this is going to play out and how this is going to affect you. Now, up at the top, those 4 bars at the top, that's this year, that's 2024. The 3 bars at the bottom, that's next year in 2025. So let's do a little, let's do a little review. Let's talk about this year in 2024. This year in 2024, there are 4 stages of drug coverage. 4 stages of drug coverage. This applies to every Medicare beneficiary, regardless of what plan you're on, regardless of what insurance company. These are the government's rules. So this applies to everybody on Medicare that has a Medicare Part D prescription drug plan. If you have TRICARE or something else, this would not apply to you because that's a separate program. This is going to be a Medicare prescription drug plan. So this year in 2024, the first stage is that deductible phase. You can see that big orange line right there at the bottom. In the deductible phase, myself as the Part D enrollee, the Medicare beneficiary, is responsible for 100% of that deductible. So I walk into the pharmacy at the beginning of the year, I've got to satisfy that deductible all on my own. Now, some plans have a deductible, some plans don't, depends on the plan that you're enrolled in. Now, once I meet that deductible, I bump into what's called the initial coverage phase. And in the initial coverage phase, I will now pay a copay or a coinsurance for my prescription according to my plan. And then my prescription drug plan, so the insurance company, is going to also pitch in and they're going to cover 75% of the cost of my medication. So what's going to happen, let's just say I'm on a medication that costs $600, okay? And let's say that I have a copayment of $50 copayment, okay? So My section in that initial coverage phase, I'm going to walk into the pharmacy and pay $50 out of my pocket. And my plan is going to pick up all of the rest to add up to that $600. Now, I'm going to stay in that initial coverage phase until my total drug cost, what I've spent out of my pocket and what my insurance company has covered, adds up to $5,030. So what I've spent and what the insurance company spends adds up to $5,030. Once I hit that dollar amount, I'm going to bump into what's called the coverage gap, what everybody refers to as the donut hole. Now, what's going to happen in the donut hole is I am going to be responsible for 25% of the cost of my prescription. The copay goes away. You more than likely have a copay, a set dollar amount in the initial coverage phase. In the coverage gap or the donut hole, it's going to be a percentage. So now I'm going to pay 25% of the cost of that medication. So if I'm on that $600 medication, I'm now taking $150 out of my pocket. Now what happens is my insurance company is going to cover 5% of the cost of that medication, and the drug manufacturer, the company that makes the medication, is going to come in and they're also going to pick up 70% of the cost of that medication. I'm going to stay in that coverage gap or the donut hole until my drug costs add up to $8,000. That's that $8,000 cap we have this year in 2024. Then I bump over into the catastrophic coverage phase. Now I'm out of the picture. I don't pay anything. That was the improvement from 2023 to 2024. But what happens now is my prescription drug plan, the insurance company is going to be responsible for 20%, and Medicare, the government, is going to come in and pick up 80%. So this is the shakeout and how it works right now in 2024. What's going to happen in 2025? Let's look down below. The deductible stays the same. I've got to satisfy 100% of the deductible. Okay, fine. That's the same. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to bump over into the initial coverage phase as soon as that deductible is met. Now in this initial coverage phase, I will have a co-payment or a co-insurance. Most plans now have a co-payment. Some plans do have a co-insurance, a percentage. Not exactly sure what that's going to look like next year. We'll kind of talk about what I'm going to predict. So what's going to happen is I'm going to be responsible for that co-payment or co-insurance up to 25%. The prescription drug plan, so the insurance company, is now responsible for 65%, and the drug manufacturer is now going to hop in on this initial coverage phase, and they're going to pick up 10% of the cost of that medication. Now, what's going to happen in this initial coverage phase is once my total costs, not just what I'm paying, not just the $2,000, that's not just me, what everybody is paying. So what I'm paying, what the insurance company is paying, and what the drug manufacturer is paying, right? That 25, 65, and 10%. Once all of that together adds up to $2,000, I'm going to bump over into that catastrophic coverage phase where, again, I'm out of the picture. Now the insurance company is going to be responsible for 60%. That's a huge increase from the 20% they were paying right now this year. The drug manufacturer is going to jump in at 20%, and in Medicare, the government is going to pick up 20%. Okay, so look at how the shifting is happening. What I want you to take away from this slide is that the insurance companies, the Uniteds, the Humanas, the Anthems, the Aetnas, the Cignas, the WellCares of the world are going to be shouldering quite a bit more of the cost for prescription medications. Well, do you think that insurance companies are going to sit back and let that happen? Oh gosh, no. They have stock prices. They have shareholders. They have a balance sheet. They are very much, most of them, for profit. So they're going to need to figure out how to absorb and potentially reallocate those costs. And who do you think they're going to reallocate it to? Us as the enrollees, as the beneficiaries. So this is very important to understand a little bit of the behind the scenes on who's picking up the tab and what percentage they're picking up. Okay. Here's something that's a little bit confusing, but I just want to explain a little bit. So I mentioned that $2,000 maximum out of pocket. It's not a true out-of-pocket cost, because remember in that slide, you are paying 25%, the insurance company is paying 65%, and the drug manufacturer is paying 10%. That's what's all totaling, what all three of those parties are paying up to that $2,000 amount. So it's highly unlikely that you will really meet that $2,000 maximum out of pocket. Okay. So what they're going to do, and this is actually in favor of us as the Medicare beneficiaries, is there is a Medicare defined standard cost amount for a specific or particular prescription drug. Now, this you do not need to keep track of. The insurance companies will keep track of this for you. but I want to understand or help you understand that most likely you will not ever actually spend out of your own pocket that full $2,000. So in example one, let's just say that your cost share, your copay for a medication is $20. That's what it says on your plan. You walk into the pharmacy to get this particular medication, your responsibility is $20. But let's say that the Medicare defined standard Part D cost is $40. Well, what the company is going to do is they're going to take that $40 and they're going to apply it to the $2,000 because that's the standard cost. Okay, in the second one, let's say that your member cost share is $47. So your copay is $47. That's what your plan said for this prescription. It's $40. But let's say that the defined standard is only $35. They're always going to use the higher number. So the thing I want you to understand with this is when we're calculating true out-of-pocket cost, not total out-of-pocket cost, the insurance companies are always going to use the higher amount that is in your favor. So it's very unlikely you're ever going to really get to that maximum out-of-pocket of $2,000 because the true out-of-pocket cost is more than likely going to be in your favor. Okay, so 2025 Part D minimum standards. So the deductible is going up a little bit for 2025. So the deductible in 2025 is going to be $590. Now, you may be on a plan right now that has no deductible. I have a feeling we're going to see more deductibles on plans in 2025, but the standard annual deductible for 2025 is $590. The cost share, we saw that in the initial coverage phase, it's 25%. So even if they change, let's say that you have a set copay right now of $20 or $47 or $50, whatever it might be, you're never going to be responsible for more than that 25%, and it'll never exceed that $2,000. Okay, so that's that max out of pocket, that $2,000, but that's going to be the shakeout. So if you are on a Medicare Advantage, so MAPD, Medicare Advantage Prescription Drug Plan versus a PDP prescription drug plan, I think there's going to be different impacts on different plans. So if you have a Medicare Advantage plan and it has your drug plan in there, I do think we're going to see similar costs. They're going to feel the same cost increase that a prescription drug plan has. I just think that Medicare Advantage plans are going to have a little bit easier of a time absorbing some of those additional costs. And the reason why is Medicare Advantage plans, they're the ones that have your medical coverage, they have your drug plan, they have the dental, the vision, the hearing, the over-the-counter benefit, sort of all those extra benefits. Well, they have a broader set of benefits that they can adjust to absorb these costs. So let's say that you're on a plan that gives you $2,500 in dental. Well, maybe next year we see that they pare that back. Maybe it's only $2,000 or maybe it's only $1,500. They're going to give you less in those extra shiny benefits because they need to absorb some of these prescription drug costs. So they can sort of play the shell game and sort of grab from other ancillary benefits to absorb some of the prescription drug plan impacts that they're going to feel in those plans. Versus with a prescription drug plan down here, you know, they don't really have those options, right? That's the only product they have. If you're buying a standalone Part D prescription drug plan to complement your Medicare supplement plan, your G, your F, your N, well, they don't have anything to sort of steal from or adjust from or kind of smooth out the benefits because all they are is a prescription drug plan. Okay. So I do think we're going to feel greater impacts on the prescription drug, standalone prescription drug plans. I think there's going to be impacts to both. TBD, I haven't seen the plans yet, and I'm not allowed to speak on the plans until October 1st. So what are my predicted changes? So here's what I'm predicting. If I had a crystal ball and I knew what was going to go on next year, I do think that we're going to have higher premiums. I think that we're definitely going to have higher premiums on standalone Part D prescription drug plans. I do maybe anticipate that some of those zero premium Medicare Advantage plans, maybe we see a small premium on those. I don't know. We don't know yet. I do think we're going to see fewer choices. Mutual of Omaha is a company that has recently come out and they said that they are exiting the prescription drug plan market next year in 2025. So they are no longer going to offer Part D standalone prescription drug plans. They are going to remain in the Medicare supplement arena, and they do have Medicare Advantage plans in some states, but they are fully exiting the prescription drug plan arena. So I do think we're going to see fewer choices. I do think we're going to see stricter formularies. So remember, formularies are those list of prescription medications on each plan, and it lists all the prescriptions that are covered by the plan. I do think that we might see a reduction or a tightening of those formularies, again, to be determined. I do also think we're going to see more drug utilization reviews. So some people, you might need a prior authorization. You might need to do step therapy. There might be more quantity limits implemented. We're going to go through exactly what those are too. But I do think that these are some of the changes that we're going to see, not only to Medicare Advantage plans, but I think more specifically to those standalone Part D prescription drug plans next year. So higher premiums. So if you have a standalone Part D plan, so that means you're on a Medicare supplement. So you've got that Part D, that supplement, that Plan G, that Plan N, that Plan F, maybe you're still on Plan F, and you've got that drug plan that complements that. I do anticipate we are going to see higher premiums. Right now, the national average as far as Part D premiums is right around $35. We're anticipating that to triple, if not quadruple next year. Things I've heard is that the standard average is going to be about $92 per month for a standalone Part D plan. Now, I do think there's always outliers on either side, but that's what their kind of word on the street is. The rumblings I'm hearing is that the average is going to go from about $32, $35 to $92, $95. So again, I don't know the premiums right now. If I did, trust me, I would share it with you. We're just starting to get the rollouts from the insurance companies to see the plans. And then I buy standards and the rules that I abide by, the regulations. I am not allowed to talk about the plans until October 1st. One thing you may have heard of is that the drug plans are capped at a 6% per year premium increase. That's not completely true. What they can do is the way around this, they can retire a plan. So let's say that I am in a plan that's $10 a month. And let's say that next year that plan is going to go away. Well, if I'm not paying attention and I'm not reading my ANOC, my annual notice of change that you're going to start getting in the mail come September, the annual notice of change, please, please, please read those this year. If I'm not paying attention and I just stick my head in the sand and I don't do anything during that annual enrollment period and they retire my drug plan, what they're going to do is they are going to enroll me in the most comprehensive plan. That means most expensive. They're going to enroll me in the most comprehensive plan automatically. Okay. I don't want to wake up January 1st and go from paying $10 a month to paying $90 a month. I've seen that happen in a couple markets with a couple carriers. If you're not working with an agent and they're not being proactive and paying attention for you, you are going to be sad come January 1st, frankly, December 8th, because our deadline is December 7th for that annual enrollment period. So again, that's why you need to reach out to me, to an agent. You need to get a review done this year. We can help you. So premiums are going up. Premiums are definitely going up. Okay. Oops. Higher premiums. There we go. So one of the things I really want to stress is that you've got to maybe start thinking about what can you budget for a standalone prescription drug plan. If you are on a Medicare supplement and you have a Part D prescription drug plan, you need to start thinking, what can I afford going into next year to pay in a premium for my prescription drug plan? I do think this year we are going to have some more serious conversations at looking at Medicare Advantage plans. Now, I'm not saying that Medicare Advantage plans are right for everybody. They're not. That's why we have two options. Some are right for some people, some are right for other people. But I do think if that finances is a constraint for you, we may have to have the conversation of looking at a Medicare Advantage plan. Good news is they have come a really, really long way. We can talk through that and make sure that all of your doctors and all of your drugs are covered. That is something we have to talk about just to address that financial constraint that you may have. Okay, one thing, formulary reduction. So again, every drug plan has a formulary, the list of drugs that they cover. Now, right now, every drug plan is required to cover at least 2 drugs from each therapeutic category, except for these 6 categories of drugs where they have to cover really all of the drugs within these therapeutic categories. Okay. I'm not even going to try to say all of these. Whoever came up with drug names, good Lord. But right now, formularies have to cover at least 2 in every category. So if I have, asthma, if I have cholesterol, if I have, AFib, they've got to cover at least 2 prescriptions that treat those ailments. But within these 6 categories, they do have to cover all of them. But I do think that to contain drug costs next year, they are going to reduce some of those formularies. So you may have a drug that you take, an inhaler, something like that, and it's covered on your plan this year. It's going to be really important to make sure it's going to be covered on your plan next year. That's where we come in. We can do all of that legwork for you. We do all the heavy lifting. Okay. Drug utilization review. So I talked about this. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to see more prior authorizations. So it means that you've got to get authorization from the doctor to get that prescription filled. Step therapy. Step therapy means that they want you to try the generic medication before you go up into those expensive brand name medications. Let's just take thyroid medication. So the generic is levothyroxine. Now, not all people can take the generic. Some people have to take the name brand, which is Synthroid. Okay, Synthroid is much more expensive than levothyroxine. So what some of the drug plans are going to require is, unless we can get the prior authorization from our doctor that, nope, Alexis has to take Synthroid, she cannot take the generic, we're going to see these drug plans say, well, let's try the generic first. If that doesn't work, then we will get you on the name brand, unless your doctor is willing to sign that prior authorization. I also think we're going to see quantity limits. That's where the plan is going to limit the number of pills. Maybe they won't do a 90-day supply. Maybe they only do a 1-month supply. So I do think we're going to see more of this within those formularies on those drug plans for next year. One thing that is coming is this Medicare prescription payment plan. It's being called the MP3, Medicare Prescription Payment Plan, MP3, or what they're referring to as the smoothing program. So think about this sort of as like a layaway plan, right? Where, you know, I want to go buy a really expensive TV, but I'm going to pay $100 a month over a year to pay for that $1,200 TV. Same kind of an idea. So all prescription drug plans, whether it's in a Medicare Advantage plan or whether it's a standalone Part D plan, they have to offer this. Okay, so they're required to offer this. What's going to happen is you will actually pay your insurance company. They're going to send you a bill versus paying when you fill that medication at the pharmacy. Now, to be eligible for this MP3 or the smoothing program, you have to have at least one prescription medication that costs over $600. So if I'm just taking a cheap generic drug that's $5 when I fill it, I can't apply for this program. You have to have at least one prescription medication that costs over $600. And you are responsible for enrolling in this plan. You have to opt into this. You have to call your insurance company and opt into this program. Okay? So this is going to be something that's coming out. The pharmacies are also, it's falling on their shoulders to educate Medicare beneficiaries when they come into the pharmacy about this plan. So this is something, if your agent that you're working with isn't telling you about this, they don't know what's coming down the pike. You should be concerned. You need to find somebody that knows what is going on. Again, Pepple Insurance can be that resource for you. Creditable coverage. So this is going to be specific for my clients and clients out there, the people that are over the age of 65 and have decided to work past 65, and maybe you get insurance through your employer. Well, the rule has been, as long as you've got greater than 20 employees, or at least there's 20 employees maybe from different companies that are enrolled in that group plan, you are allowed to stay on that policy. The second qualification is the coverage has to be equal or better than what Medicare offers. Equal or better than what Medicare offers. Here's the situation. When that $8,000 drug cap was on there, your employer plan was probably pretty similar to that. Now that drug cap is lowering to $2,000, I don't know if many employer plans are going to be as good as that. So what's going to happen is these employers are going to be required to provide you documentation stating that your employer plan is equal to or better than what Medicare offers. As long as it is, you can continue to stay on your employer plan past the age of 65 without any late enrollment penalty. I don't think we're going to see as many employer plans be able to meet that credible coverage criteria next year in 2025 with that $2,000 cap on prescription drug coverage. So again, this is really, really important, because if you are 65 and you stay on your employer plan and it is not considered credible coverage, you are incurring a late enrollment penalty, and the late enrollment penalties of Medicare are just not nice. They're percentages. I can go into that. Call me. I'm not getting the weeds here, but it's not a one-time late to the party penalty. You will pay this penalty every month in perpetuity. You will be reminded every single month. So again, please, you've got to talk to somebody. Okay, I anticipate, actually, I don't even anticipate, they've done studies. Normally, about 14 to 15% of Medicare beneficiaries change plans from year to year. 14 to 15% change plans. Most people stay in their same plan. Now, I'm not trying to set everybody's hair on fire and scare everybody that everybody's got to change their plan. I still think some people are going to be able to stay in their plan. The people that I really want to hear this is if you are on a Medicare supplement, Plan G, Plan N, Plan F, a Medicare supplement, and a Part D standalone prescription drug plan, you absolutely need to review your policy. The annual enrollment period starts October 15th. It runs through December 7th. Whatever plan you're enrolled in on December 8th when you wake up, that's going to be the plan that you have for 2025. And if it's a plan that was retired, they're going to pop you into that most comprehensive, most expensive plan for next year. The best part about what we do this all out of the goodness of our hearts. No, you don't pay us anything. The way that we're compensated is when we write a policy, the insurance companies compensate us. You don't pay anything out of your pocket. And we truly, truly want to do what is best for you. We are going to look at what medications are you taking? What pharmacy do you like? What doctors do you see? Do you live part-time in Colorado and hightail it to Arizona when it snows? Or do you live in Michigan and you go to Florida? Whatever it might be, we want to find a plan that covers your doctors, covers your prescriptions, and meets your needs. Appreciate you so much. Thanks.